big hello to all my wonderful KCET aspirants. I hope you are doing really great, my dear children. And today we are going to do one short video for organisms and population, and it is going to be really fun. I know that exam is nearing, you might be a bit worried about things, but please be rest assured that you don't have to worry about things, you have to work on things, and if you are doing so, you are going to do crazy good. Okay, so let's begin. One shot. So I want your NCERT and also a pen. If at all I say that this is something important, you can write it down, as in everything is important, but then some things, no, you might feel that oh, it's not just that important, it's just okay, it's just there, I just have to read it once. No, you might have to read it twice, and I will be telling you those things. And also when you have your NCERT with you while I'm teaching you one shot, it gives you an idea, where am I teaching from? Okay, this portion is completed, okay, I'm feeling a bit confident. Okay, so I think we are ready. Let's start with the first initial paragraphs that we have in the chapter. Okay, so in that the definition of population is given. After the little introduction, I'm talking about the next part which is there. In that definition of population is given. What do you mean by population? It's just a group of individuals like us who are of the same species, who are there in a specific area, my dear children. So we say that we are a population of human beings, yeah. So they are going to utilize the resources, they are also going to potentially interbreed among themselves. Now, cormorants in a wetland, lotuses which are there in a pond, okay, bacteria which are there in a culture plate, all of them is example of population. This is population of bacteria, this is population of lotus, this is population of cormorants which are there. Now, exactly what is written in NCERT, I'm just telling you those examples. Now, if you compare population with individual, for example, Jasmine ma'am is a separate thing and human being population is a separate thing. So in individuals, my dear children, individual will experience birth and death. Either I can die or I can get born. So there is birth and death. But when I talk about population, there is birth rate and death rate, my dear children. You basically calculate it like this. So if 8 new lotus plants grow in a pond with 20 existing ones. So there was a pond, my dear children, and there were 20 lotus plants. 8 of them, they grew now. So what is the birth rate over here? So we do 8 by 20, which will be 0.4 per lotus per year. So there's a time period that we allocate, a specific area we are going to calculate that. Now there is death rate as well. So number of individuals dying in a population per unit time. Okay, per unit time. So how do you calculate it? Number of deaths which is there upon the total population size. So if 4 fruit flies are dying in a population of 40, what do you do? 4 divided by 40 is equals to what? 0.1 per fruit fly per week. This is what? The death rate. So population, we use birth rate and death rate. For individuals, we say birth and death only. Now apart from that, in population we have one more thing, that is sex ratio. So what do you mean by sex ratio? It is just a proportion of males and the females in a population. For example, I say 60% of them are females, and rest 40% will be what? Males. So this gives an idea about how many organisms belonging to one particular sex are there in one particular population. Works. So these are small attributes that are there in the population. I agree the initial part of the chapter is little bit boring, but obviously it is important, we have to study. Now this particular thing that I am showing you over here is highly important because you get questions every year on the basis of this. So age distribution and age pyramid. First of all, what do you mean by that? So population consists of individuals of different ages. Don't you agree? I am of different age, you are of different age. Even though I want to be of your age, still I am of different age. Then there might be someone who is more aged than me, there might be someone who is, what say, very younger than you get it? So these are the different ages that we have. Now what does age pyramid mean? Age pyramid shows the age distribution in a population. It shows what? Age distribution in a population. So pyramid shape indicates the population growth. For example, there are 3 pyramid shapes. One is expanding, the other one is stable, and the third one is declining. How do I say it's expanding? Basically, the lower bar which is there, it indicates the organisms belonging to pre-reproductive age. As in, they have not reproducing now, they are in the pre-reproductive age, but they will be growing. They will get matured, they will reproduce. So if I see that these organisms are more in number, so obviously I am sure in future they are going to increase the population. So here reproductive is less and post-reproductive is way lesser than that. So if pre-reproductive, if my future is secure over here, if they are going to reproduce, my dear children, I'll say it's expanding type of population. Now on the other hand, if I see the pre-reproductive and reproductive is almost same, my dear children. It's almost uniform shape that I am getting over here. So I'll say it's a stable thing. Okay, people are there, people will reproduce, but it's not going overboard. Now over here, if I see the pre-reproductive age group is way too less, that means in future I would not be seeing so many children out there. So obviously the population size is going to go down. So I'll call this as declining population growth. So with the help of different age pyramids, I am getting to understand what is there about the population growth. So is it increasing, is it stable, is it declining, everything. So expanding, in that you will have a broad base, and obviously this indicates there will be high birth rate. There is high birth rate, which is why it is happening. Now stable as in there is a uniform shape and there is equal birth rate as well as death rate, my dear children. So over here birth rate is way high, but death rate is, death rate is also high. But birth rate is also even more higher, which is why it is given up over here. Now, narrow base means low birth rate is there. Narrow base means low birth rate there. So, forget about birth rate, death rate over here. At least you understand the pre-reproductive age groups. If it's way too much, expanding. If it is same, stable. If it is less, it is declining. Okay? Chalo. So we studied about population. What do you mean by population? We spoke about the birth rate, death rate, and we also spoke about what? The age pyramids which are there. Now, are there certain factors which affects the population size? Do you think so? So population size is dynamic, that is, it changes over time due to food availability, predation and weather. So is the population size the same as it was 20 years back? No, my dear children, because now the food is a limiting resource, my dear children. What will happen? There are people, or in the future probably, we might just fight for food. Okay, we might just fight for food, and since the food availability is really less, and the population size will go less. So it changes over time because of certain factors like food availability, predation, okay, and also the weather. Now fluctuations indicate whether a population is growing or declining. Okay, fine. Now there are four basic processes that are affecting the population density, and you have to remember it. What are the four basic things? Natality, mortality, immigration and emigration. Natality means birth rate, number of births in a given period. If natality is more, if the people are getting more, so obviously the population size is increasing. If mortality means death rate, number of death in a given period. That is what you mean by mortality, death rate. Please make sure you're talking about a given period, okay? There's a specific time period. Now over here, if mortality is more, people are dying more, do you think population is increasing? No, the population is what? Decreasing. What about immigration? Immigration means, for example, this is a place, a lot of people are coming over here. So don't you think here, when they're coming inside over here, the population is going to increase over here? Yes. So individuals entering the habitat from elsewhere, this is known as immigration. Now emigration, E for exit, my dear children. So people are living, for example, you guys came in my room and now you're going living here. So population size, my dear children, it will go decrease. So there are two factors which are going to increase the population density, that is natality and immigration. There are two factors that is going to decrease the population density, that is mortality and emigration. Okay, please remember E for exit. Now, population density formula. So, if n is the population, children, n is what? The population density at time t, then the density at t plus 1 is. So, after some time, what will be the density? So, how do you calculate it? This is the present day population density that we have. Okay, this is the present day population density. Plus what we are going to do? Plus we are going to include the birth rate as well as immigration. That means natality as plus as immigration minus death rate plus emigration. When you do that, okay, when you do that, suppose over here, the birth and the immigration is way too much. If birth and the immigration is way too much than death and emigration, that means population is going to increase. Array, people are reproducing more, okay, basically reproduction rate is very much and people are getting, coming to our particular place. So obviously population size is going to increase. But on the other hand, if this is more, if death rate and emigration is more, okay, people are dying and whatever people are there, they are going off also, then that means population is what? Decreasing, my dear children. So this is the formula for population density after time t, okay, t plus 1. So time t plus 1. So please remember this formula as well. Now influencing factors, that is birth and death, are the main factors under normal condition. You also talk about immigration and emigration as crucial things when you talk about colonization to a new habitat. For example, from organisms when they are coming from different places and settling over here or going to different location, at that point of time even emigration and immigration plays a very, very major role. Works? I hope you are understanding. Are you? Okay, so please remember these are the 4 basic factors that affects the density, population density. Very, very, very important, and this is the formula. This is also very, very important. Chalo. Now going ahead. Exponential growth model, and there are 2 growth models. Okay, the population growth, if we talk about that, there are 2 models. So exponentially growth means, for example, there is nothing that is limiting, my dear children. Nothing that is limiting. Food is there, water is there, everything is there. So if everything is there, what will happen? The organisms keep on growing. They will what? Keep on growing. Right? So if they keep on growing, will the graph, if this is a time, if this is the population density, the graph will go shoot up like this. Will it stop anywhere? Will it come down anywhere? No, it is going to increase. What do you mean by this? Basically, that means population density is keeping on increasing. This is exponential curve, my dear children, and it is giving rise to a J-shaped curve. If you see, initially, obviously, it will take some time to pick up, but after it picks up, it just shoots up. So this is a J-shaped curve that you get when exponential growth is there. Okay, and when do we say exponential growth is there? When the resources are unlimited, population grows exponentially. Here the population follows J-shaped curve. Okay, so how do you explain it? So growth rate is defined by dn by dt. dn by dt is equals to b minus d n. What does B stand for? Birth rate. What does D stand for? Death rate. What is this? Basically population growth after some time. Okay, this is what population growth after some time, my dear children, and this is the present day population. So B minus D, when you find it out, okay, suppose B is more, obviously then the population density also, growth will also be more. If D is more, then that means what, say, population growth is not that great. Okay, so over here B and D is represented by R, my dear children. Okay, B and D, it is represented by R. It is known as intrinsic rate of natural increase. It is what? Intrinsic rate of natural increase. Okay, now there is an integral formula for the same thing, that is NT is equals to N naught ERT. NT is equals to N naught ERT. All these formulas are really important. Please know what does everything stand for. This is intrinsic rate of natural increase, B is birth rate, D is death rate, this is present day population size, and this is after some time. Okay, here NT stands for population size after T, N naught stands for initial population size which is there, R stands for intrinsic growth rate, and E basically is the natural logarithmic base that is being used. That is 2.718. So examples of R value is different for different organisms. For example, for Norway rat it is 0.015. Okay, Norway rat it is 0.015. So in a particular area, my dear children, over there the birth rate is more than the death rate, which is whatever is there, it was 0.015. For flower beetle it is 0.12. India's human population in 1981 was 0.0205. So depending on it, it changes, it fluctuates always. Okay. Now, even slow growing species like elephants can reach huge numbers under unchecked exponential growth. Yes, even slow growing organisms like elephant, my dear children, their growth is really slow, but they also can show exponential growth if the factors are not limiting. Always remember, if you are given this a question, okay, that basically you are growing bacteria in a culture medium and you are providing, let's say, all the resources. What type of growth does it show? If you are providing all the resources every now and then, my dear children, are they going to have limitation of any resources? No. So what type of growth they are going to show? They are going to show exponential growth. And this is a J-shaped curve. Please remember this formula, very important. Okay, this is time, this is population density. Works? And this is a logarithmic formula. Now, integral formula. Now we have, okay, so this is not exponential growth, this is logistic growth. Now we have logistic growth model which gives you a S-shaped curve. And you might be thinking, why S-shaped curve, ma'am? So basically initially it will also take time to pick up. Slowly it picks up, but then it realizes that there are limiting resources. This particular area cannot hold more than these particular organisms. Now this limit that you see is known as carrying capacity. This is known as what? Carrying capacity. So over here, whenever you are calculating the population size, you have to include the carrying capacity as well. Okay, so in logistic growth model, and over here if you see it's a S-shaped curve, even though not exactly S, but there's an S-shaped curve over here. So in nature, my dear children, in actual sense, if you talk about actual sense, in nature resources are limited. So exponential growth cannot continue indefinitely. Right? As resources become scarce, competition increases and only one of the fittest will survive and reproduce, you know that as well. So the maximum population size that an environment can support is called the carrying capacity. The maximum population, size and environment can support is the carrying capacity after beyond which it cannot go. Is the maximum population size. A plot of n in relation to time results in sigmoid curve. Now S means sigmoid, okay. This type of population growth is known as World-Spur logistic growth. Please remember, World-Spur logistic growth. This is known as World-Spur logistic growth. There are different phases in this logistic growth. One is lag phase, where it's slowly growing, slow initial growth. Then there is acceleration phase, my dear children, where there is rapid increase in the population. Then there is deacceleration phase. It will slowly slow down. That growth slows as resources become what? Limited. And then asymptote, that is population reaches a carrying capacity beyond which it is just stable. It is not going to increase, not going to decrease, nothing. So these are the different phases which are there in logistic growth. Please remember it. Lag phase, then acceleration phase, then deacceleration phase, where the growth actually slows down, and then asymptote, where there's a stable thing. It has reached the carrying capacity, the growth is stabilized over there. And what is the formula for this? As I told you, dn by dt is the population size after some time, r is intrinsic rate of natural increase, n is the population size as of now. Over here, k stands for carrying capacity, k minus n divided by k is the thing that is there. So this is the carrying, in the carrying capacity, how much amount of population size has it already reached. This gives you an idea about that. Cool. This is how you calculate this. So please remember this formula, very much important. Also S-shaped curve which is there. Okay, this is J-shaped curve which is there in exponential growth, not in logistic growth. Works? So children, there is no point of teaching slowly also. Why? Because you will get bored, right? You will get bored. And also in this way, you are challenging your brain to understand things in a faster way. And I'll tell you, you have already studied this in your board examination or probably your preparatory examination and things like that. So I want you to basically take up this time and utilize it properly, which is why if at all I am in a bit if at all I am speeding up, it's because of that. I want you to understand that. I do not want you to have a long lengthy lecture and get bored and not study anything. But I hope you're understanding things. If at all you think that no, I'm not able to match this pace, what you can do is there is an option to slow down the video as well. Slow it down a little bit and see if you're able to understand or not. Okay, and for your doubts, children, I am here. You can put down that in the comment section. I will be clearing all of your doubts. So be rest assured for that. And as I said, I don't want to waste any bit of your time. So let's get ahead. Okay, now there is reproductive fitness and strategies. It's a small thing given in your NCERT. You might not have even seen it. Okay, so let's see. So it is reproductive fitness is also known as Darwinian fitness. So high R value means reproductive success. So R values is something that will make you understand about the reproductive fitness. It is denoted by R. Now organisms adapt to maximize reproductive efficiency based on the selection pressures. Now type of reproductive strategies. There are organisms that breeds only once in their entire lifetime. Example, Pacific salmon and bamboo. They are known as simulparous organisms. Now simulparous term is not given in your NCERT. Okay, so single time breeders, you don't have to remember it. If you want to remember it, you can. So the single time breeders breeds only once in their lifetime. Example is Pacific salmon and bamboo. Now multiple time breeders, they are known as heteroparous organisms. They breed many times in life. Examples birds and also what? Mammals, my dear children, like us. Okay, now offspring production strategies. There are strategies where they produce many small offspring. Why? Because they want to make sure at least a few of them could survive. You might have seen puppies. Okay, there are so many being produced, but then at the end there will be one or two. So over here there are high quantities there. The quantity is really high, but low survival rate is there, which is why they have so many kids. Example, oysters and pelagic fish. That is something that is extra. And then there is one more strategy where there are few large offsprings. So over here, for example, in the case of human beings, there are not 10,000 children, only 1 or 2 children. Why? Low quantity, but there are high survival rate, my dear children, which is why there is no need of producing so many organisms. So birds and mammals comes under this. So go through it once. It's not very much important. It's just there. We never know. Questions can come. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead. Over here, my dear little children, we have population interactions, which is the most important part of this particular chapter. So, you know, in the population, the different organisms are going to have different types of interactions which are being mentioned over here. So, mutualism is a type of interaction which basically both the organisms which are participating are getting benefit. So, this is the best one. Then we have competition where one organism and the other organism, species A and species B, basically two organisms, both of them are not going to get any benefit of it. So, it will be minus minus. Since they are not getting any benefit, for both of them it will be detrimental, it is bad. Okay. Now, if we talk about predation, for example, tiger and a deer. Tiger eats the deer. So, for tiger, it got its food, so it will be plus, but for the deer, it died, so it will be minus. Talking about parasitism, which is again like predation itself, so it will be plus and then minus. For example, a tick on the body of the dog, it is continuously feeding on the blood, but is the dog getting benefited? No. There's a negative effect that is being shown, even though it's very little, but still. So, it is minus and plus over here. Commensalism is basically when an organism is getting benefit and the other organism which is participating is not getting the benefit, nor is it harmed. Okay, that is commensalism. Now, amensalism is given in your NCERT textbook. So, over here, amensalism is explained in this manner. Apart from that, in your NCERT textbook, there is no explanation of amensalism, my dear children. Amensalism is when one organism is getting harmed and the other organism is basically not going to get any benefit, or it is basically unharmed as well. Okay. So, one organism definitely it is harmed, other organism is neither benefited nor it is harmed. So, predation, parasitism and commensalism, my dear children. What? Predation, parasitism and commensalism, three of them share a common character, and what is that? The interacting species live closely together. They have to live closely together, then only they can show these interactions, and this is a really important point. This point that you see is a really important point. Okay, predation, parasitism and commensalism, they may have to make sure that the interacting species are basically closely living together. Cool. Now, going ahead, we have examples of predation and the uses of predation. So, what is the use of predation? Basically, for energy transfer, it is very much important. Predators help transfer energy from autotrophs to higher trophic levels. So, for example, there's an autotroph, that is a plant. Now, plant is being eaten up by what? The grass. Plant is being eaten up by the rabbit. So, rabbit is a predator, right? So, whatever energy is there in the plant, my dear children, isn't the rabbit having it? Now, whatever organism is going to eat the rabbit, suppose a tiger is going to eat the rabbit. Now, this particular energy is going to get transferred to the next trophic level. So, obviously, they are going to act like a conduit. Okay, what do you call this term as? You call this term as conduit. They are going to act as conduit or connecting link between energy transfer. Okay, the second thing, predator maintain the prey population. That is, if a predator overexploits its prey, both the predator and the prey, they may become extinct. For example, there is tiger and it eats on all the deer which is there. Now, what will it eat on? What will it survive on? Both of them. If there is no food, both of them are going to die. So, make sure there is one very important thing that you have to remember. Natural predators are prudent to avoid this. Basically, they have that mind. Yes, I cannot do that. I cannot do that because if I'm a tiger, if I eat all the deer, I would not have the food later on. So, they are very much prudent, my dear children. So, they are conduit because they help as a connecting link between energy transfer. They are prudent because they make sure that they are not over-exploiting the prey population, because at the end, they might only suffer because of the same thing. Works? Got it? Now, there is exotic species and predation. So, invasive species spread quickly due to absence of natural predators. Now, what is the use of having predators? One use is basically, you know what? You know, invasive species as in some organism which we get from outside. It is not indigenous. Indigenous as in, for example, organisms which are already there. So, invasive species can come over here and they can basically take up the whole thing if there are no natural predators. If there are predators, what will happen? Predators will eat them up and these invasive species would not be spreading. So, example is prickly pear cactus in Australia. It was controlled by a cactus feeding moth. Okay, so prickly pear cactus, it was an invasive species which was there. Okay, this was a invasive species which were there in Australia. But then you had cactus feeding moth, which basically feeded on this and made sure that it is not spreading really quick. Because if the invasive species spread really quick, my dear children, what will happen? They will use all the resources and everything, and it will be a big problem for the indigenous species of organisms which are there. Okay, so this is one very important use of predation. Okay, second thing, it is going to act like a biological control. So you might have seen in pest control, okay, we studied in biotechnology and its application, and also microbes and in human welfare, that basically there are certain organisms which are going to feed on pest. Now if it is going to feed on pest, obviously we can be made sure that the plants and all are safe, because there is someone to eat. So this here predator is really important because it is acting as a biological control agent. Okay, now it helps in maintaining the species diversity. How? Basically, if predators reduce competition among the prey species. So prey species also, if they are very too much in number, for example human beings, not human beings, for example deer itself, if they are way too much in number, all of them will need grass to eat the food. They will need grass, right? So they will, if their number is increasing, they will be fighting among themselves. There will be competition happening among themselves, my dear children, and that is very big problem. So what do? If we have a predator over there, it will control the prey population so that the prey population is not way too much. Hence it can feed on the available resources which are there. So starfish removal led to extinction of several species of the American Pacific coast. So what was happening? There was a starfish that is known as Parasitic, my dear children, which was a very important predator. It was a very important predator. Now when this predator was removed, it was noticed that there are several species of American that were there in the American Pacific coast that got extinct because they fought among themselves. There was no resources left for them to have food because there were so many in number. You get it? So predators basically help reduce competition. How did they understand? By removing a predator. That was Parasitic starfish. So here they had two examples. All these examples are really important. You might be asked, what type of relationship does they show? So prickly pear cactus, okay, which was there, it was a prey. What was a predator? Cactus feeding moth. It was a good predator because this was an invasive species and we did not want this to spread in Australia. Now talking about biological control, you have a lot of things, for example Bacillus thuringiensis, okay, which is a bacteria. It feeds on the pest, that is butterfly caterpillars and everything, and make it under control. Now there is one more thing, that is starfish. Over here predators are helping in reducing the competition among the prey species. So when this Parasitic starfish was removed, what happened in the American Pacific coast? There are several species that got extinct. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Okay, now going ahead, there are a few more things, that is prey defenses against predators. So until now we were talking about the use of predators and everything, but prey also have to make sure that they are safe. They also have to make sure that they are safe, and they definitely have defensive mechanism for that. For example, camouflage. So there is cryptic coloration in insects and frogs, my dear children. And for example, if I wear blue dress and paint my face in blue, and I stand over here, you would not be able to see me, even though you would be able to see me. But in general I'm talking. Basically I'm camouflaging, and with the help of that I am defending myself. I am basically safe from all the predators who are looking for me. Now there are poisonous species of organisms as well. Now example, monarch butterfly stores toxins from the poisonous plants. So you know monarch butterfly is there. It is highly distasteful, my dear children. It is what? Highly distasteful. Does not taste good at all. So what is the reason behind it? Basically in its larval stage, at that particular point of time, it feeds on a plant that releases toxins. Okay, so these toxins are there stored in their body. So whenever they grow up, basically any organism that comes and eats it, it will be feeding on the toxins which are stored over there. So these are poisonous species. Obviously no one would prefer having it. So these are the two things that is there for animals, my dear children. Examples of animals, one is camouflaging, and another one is just having poisonous species. Monarch butterfly is really important. Now herbivory, in the case of herbivores also, okay, the plants if they are the prey, they also have to do some defense mechanism, right? So in plants there are few. One is morphological defense. For example, thorns. You might morphological as in if they're making some changes in the structure, and that is helping in their defense. This is known as morphological defense. For example, they have thorns and all. So any organism which comes to eat it, it's like, oh my god, oh, my tongue is paining. So basically it's because of thorns. Example, you have acacia and you have cactus. You might have seen in cactus you have thorns, right? Now apart from that, there are chemical defenses. That is, it produces toxins to harm herbivores. Basic example is Calotropis. Now Calotropis, it contains toxic cardiac glycosides which are avoided by cattle, my dear children. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I forgot to put the picture over here of Calotropis, but I'm pretty sure you might have seen it anytime in your life. So you can just Google it and see it once. It gives you a sense that, oh, this is the plant that Pam is talking about, and you might remember this for a longer time. So Calotropis, it contains toxic cardiac glycosides, my dear children. So that is why it is avoided by cattle. Okay, now commercially important plant chemicals are also there. So nicotine, caffeine, quinine, and strychnine, opium, all of them, they are actually they were evolved as plant defenses, but now has been commercially used as well. Okay, so in the prey species defense mechanism, two are there for animals, that is camouflaging, and poisonous species such as monarch butterfly. In the case of plants, my dear children, please remember there is morphological difference, that is thorns in acacia cactus, and chemical difference that is seen in calotropis, where they store toxic cardiac glycosides, which is going to affect the cattle who feed on them. Apart from that, there are commercially important plant chemicals such as nicotine and caffeine and all these things which are mentioned over here. They were actually originally they were plant defense mechanism, but we are utilizing it for our own purpose. So 25% of insects are phytophagous. What do you mean by phytophagous? Plant eating. So we have to make sure that plants are safe from the predator, that is what? The insects. That is all about predation. Please, I want you to remember, as I said, predation, that means one is getting benefit, the other one is getting harmed. So it is a plus minus relation. So over here, two of them has a plus minus relation, that is predation and parasitism. Okay, now we are going ahead. What about competition, my dear children? Competition, none of them are going to get any benefit of it. So let's see what is competition. Before that, we have KCET test series as well as crash course thingy. So my dear children, I hope you're already aware. Just give me a second, okay? Okay. I hope you're already aware about the test series and the crash course. If you're not, let me tell you. So there is a completely online test series which is there. There are 35 full syllabus and chapter wise tests which is there. There is video solution for all the problems that we are going to give you. There will be one shot revision videos and also last 5-year paper analysis. Okay, you get it? So you're going to get this in rupees 1499. Okay, now as I said, it's completely online. Now talking about KCET crash course, here there's a 21-day crash course which is happening at our campuses, that is Deeksha campuses, and it will be taught by the teachers who have a legacy of bringing out what? Ranks. So here also the test papers are set by the same teachers, so you do not have to be worried about where is the test paper coming from and all. Okay, but here it's like a crash course, so obviously you would be learning a bit more. It's not just a test series, and it's a 21-day course. It's there in Bangalore, so if you're someone who is there in Bangalore, you can come and attend. If you're not there, if you're not from Bangalore, we provide the hostel facility as well, so you can come, stay and learn as well. If you have any questions regarding this, please call on to this particular number, or else you can go ahead, click on the link in the description box. You will get more idea about both these things, but make sure you're taking an informed decision. Okay. Now, let's talk about competition. I told you competition means none of the organisms are going to get benefit. They're going to fight, which is why we say that we should not be fighting with each other. Okay, so there are certain things that you should be knowing. I think we should be going with this particular slide first. So competition, as I said, both of them are getting harmed. So according to Darwin's view, he said that interspecific competition is a major force in evolution. What do you mean by interspecific? Between different species, the competition which is there, it is going to act like a major force of evolution. The one that survive will be evolving better. You get it? And one that does not goes off. So it is not related to, please remember the competition which is there, it is not just related to related species. Sorry, it's not limited to related species. Unrelated species can also compete. So it is thought that human being fighting for the same resources. That is, we are related species. So competition is not just limited to this, but it can happen between unrelated species as well. How, ma'am? Basically, you know flamingos, that's a bird, and fishes. Both of them, they are going to fight for zooplankton. Both of them, they are going to fight for zooplankton. And what is this type of competition? This is interference competition. Why? Basically, what happens is that because flamingos are there, fishes won't be able to eat food properly, or because fishes are there, flamingos would not be able to have the food properly. So just because of the presence of one species, it reduces another's efficiency, even if resources are abundant, my dear children. At this point also, it definitely happens. So this is known as interference competition, which is shown by flamingos as well as fishes competing for zooplanktons. So over there are two different species, unrelated species, still competition is happening over there. And remember, interspecific competition, major force of evolution, this was said by Darwin. Now let's talk about evidences of competition in the nature. So, you know, competitive exclusion, what do you mean by that? So if resources are limited, my dear children, a superior species eliminates the weaker one. This is what you mean by competitive exclusion. And it didn't just came from like that, okay, from the sky. Basically, there was a person who studied about this, that is Gauss. So Gauss put down his competitive exclusion principle, according to which he said that two species, okay, remember, two species cannot coexist indefinitely if they are competing for the limited resource. If both you and me are competing for one dosa which is kept over here, we both cannot coexist together. We cannot coexist together indefinitely, my dear children. However, recent studies suggest competition often leads to coexistence strategies. But now it is said that they can lead to coexistence strategies as well. But initially, Gauss's competitive exclusion principle said that two species cannot coexist indefinitely. Why? One species will be competing on the other because there is a limited resource that is there. Okay, this is what you mean by competitive exclusion. I am going to talk about that. Then I will tell you the other scenario, that is coexistence is also proper, is also is also possible. So I told you one dosa between you and me. Okay, either is that I take it, I have it completely. That means we cannot coexist. Okay, that means you have to basically exclude, go out of this. So if resources are limited, a superior species eliminates the weaker one. Example, abundant tortoise extinction due to introduced goats. So you know what happened? Goat and tortoise both were there. Okay, so initially tortoise was there and tortoise was feeding on the grass which was there. Then the goats were introduced, but goats were kind of dominant. Okay, they could eat faster and they could reproduce faster. So they were the superior species, and after one point of time what happened? The abundant tortoise, they became extinct. So isn't it an example of competitive exclusion? Yes. Isn't what Gauss said is correct? Yes. According to this example, it is completely correct. Now there is one more thing, that is competitive release. There is another term. Okay, but before coming to that, I have to come to the other scenario. I told you either they can go off. According to Gauss's competitive exclusion principle, they cannot coexist indefinitely. They are going to compete for the same resources, and that's all. Okay, so this is the perfect example of that. Now there is another scenario where basically what I do is that the dosa which is there, we both divide it equally and eat. This is known as resource partitioning. In that way, we can coexist in the nature, and that is also seen. So resource partitioning is the alternate thing of this, where species divide resources to avoid direct competition. Okay, we do not want to have a competition, which is why we do resource partitioning. Example, MacArthur's warblers foraging at different times location in the same tree. So there were 5 different species of warblers, my dear children, and all of them, they could survive. They could survive on the same tree. Why? Because their foraging time was different. The area which were, for example, some of the organisms were eating from the down, some were eating from the upward, some were coming morning, some were coming afternoon. In that way, they were able to coexist. Okay, and this process is known as resource partitioning, which is completely opposite to what Gauss said. Gauss said it is not possible, but here people are showing, not people, organisms are showing what coexistence strategy as well, but make sure they are doing resource partitioning. Okay, example is warblers. Example is MacArthur's warblers. There are 5 of them, all of them could survive. Okay, 5 different groups, they could survive. Now, there is something that is known as competitive release. What do you mean by that? A species expands its range when a competitor is removed. When a competitor is removed, what will happen? It will say, for example, Balanus was there. Okay, there was a barnacle, that is Balanus, and then there was another barnacle, that is Thalamus. We call it Thalamus only. Thalamus was smaller ones and Balanus was the bigger, superior ones. So they were living in the same area, but then the superior one, it said that you cannot live, you go away. So it excluded. The Thalamus were excluded from the zone, intertidal zone. Okay, from the intertidal zone, they were completely excluded. So the larger and competitively superior barnacle dominated the intertidal area and excluded the smaller barnacle from that particular zone. So over here, when both of them were here together, and now when one is going, don't you think the other one is going to take the whole space? This is known as competitive release. A species will expand its range when the competitor is what? Removed. Cool. Now, this is a result of this. It is a result of competitive exclusion. It is a result of competitive exclusion. Either you got extinct, otherwise, whenever you go extinct, basically I get the whole area. So this is the result of this. Got it? So first we learned Gauss's competitive exclusion principle, which says that two species cannot coexist indefinitely if they are competing for the same resources. Example is basically abundant tortoise. Their extinction was seen because the goats were introduced over there. The goats were superior, they excluded the other guys. Now, when the other guys were excluded, what happened? The goats got enough area to have food and everything. So same thing was seen in an experiment that was done by Cornell's. So remember, this name is really important. Cornell's elegant field experiment included what? So you should know it was a barnacle, that is Balanus, and another barnacle, that is what? Thalamus. So Balanus was able to dominate because it was a superior species. It dominated the intertidal regions, whereas the other ones were removed from that particular zone. Now, the opposite of what Gauss's principle says is coexistence. So organisms nowadays have evolved coexistence strategies by resource partitioning. This is shown by warblers of Makatsu's experiment. Okay? Done? So that's all about competition. Okay. Now parasitism. Why? Okay, first, why are these statements important? They can give you to find the incorrect statement. So you might, if you're not knowing what is the incorrect statement, you might lose your marks, which is why I'm telling you this very prominently. Okay. Now the next one is parasitism. Parasitism also, one gets benefit. Okay, one gets benefit, another gets harmed, right? So it's a relationship where the parasite benefits at the expense of the host. So host specific evolution, my dear children. So parasites and host which are there co-evolved. The host resists and the parasite basically adapts. That is what we are seeing. So there are special adaptations in parasites that we should definitely know. Okay, again a question can come, which among them is not a special adaptation. So loss of unnecessary sense organs, this is an adaptation. Presence of suckers and adhesive organs, because they have to stay there. Okay, they have to stay there, which is why suckers are needed. Loss of digestive system, because they are no need of it. High reproductive capacity, because they want to increase their number. So loss of unnecessary sense organs, okay, presence of suckers and adhesive organs, loss of the digestive system and high reproductive capacity. These are the special adaptations in parasites. Cool. Now, complex life cycle. What about complex life cycle? So often involve intermediate hosts. Example, human liver fluke. So in the case of I was telling about parasites. So parasites basically have most of them have a complex life cycle as well. If we talk about the human liver fluke, which is a trematode, my dear children, which is coming under Platyhelminthes, it needs both the snail and the fish and also human base. So the host basically, it needs intermediate host as well, that is snail and fish. So don't you think it's a complex life cycle? And then they basically come and affect the human beings as well. You get it? And then there is malarial parasite. Malarial parasite, that is Plasmodium. It also requires a vector for transport, that is mosquito, my dear children. And this mosquito is also acting like a host. So the Plasmodium has two hosts. One is the mosquito and also us. And apart from that, mosquito is also acting like a vector. It helps in transport also. So aren't they having a complex life cycle? Yes, they definitely have a complex life cycle. Okay. Now impact on the host. It reduces the survival, the growth, the reproduction rate, all of these things. It makes the host weaker and more vulnerable to what? Predators. So obviously that is a really, really bad thing. So over here we have studied that special adaptations are there in the parasites, and they also have complex life cycle. Example is human liver fluke, which needs two hosts, additional host, that is snail and the fish, and the malarial parasite, that is my dear children, Plasmodium. It needs a vector, that is mosquito, and apart from that, mosquito is going to act like a host as well. Okay. Now impact on the host, obviously it is not really good thing that they do. Now, the types of the parasites that we have ectoparasites. Ecto as in is going to stay on the external surface. Okay, they live on the host surface. Example, lice in humans, ticks in the dogs, and copepods in the marine fish. All of them are ectoparasites. They are going to live on the surface. Now Cuscuta, which is a parasitic plant, it lacks chlorophyll and leaves. Okay, it does not have chlorophyll, neither does it have leaf. You might have seen yellow color plants. They are spread all over the green plants. What do they do? What do they do? So yellow color plants which are there, which does not have chlorophyll and the leaves. So basically, suppose I am the Cuscuta and this is the plant which is there. So I slowly, there are certain projections which are coming out of my body and gets into the body of the plant, into the xylem and phloem, and taking nutrient from them. What is this structure? This is known as haustoria. This is known as haustoria, my dear children. And what am I? I am Cuscuta, which is a parasite. Now this is an example of an ectoparasite for plants. Okay, now mosquito, it is not a parasite. That is what is written over here. Mosquito is not a parasite. Please do not go write in the exam that is a parasite. It feeds on blood, but only for reproduction, not for other things. Only for reproduction it feeds on blood. Apart from that, it does not need blood to survive. It is not there for survival, which is why it is not a parasite. Okay, now you have endoparasite, the ones that live inside the body. For example, tapeworm, for example, human liver fluke. All of these things are going to stay inside the body, my dear children. Roundworm, everything. Okay, so found in organs like liver, kidney, lungs, RBC, etc. So more complex life cycle is there, and extreme specialization is also observed. So complex life cycle and extreme specialization is there, then only they can survive inside the human body. Now, there is one very important term, that is brood parasitism, but before that I want to make sure that you have studied all the names. Ectoparasite names, lice, ticks and copypods. Cuscuta is a plant parasite. Mosquito is not a parasite. Okay, an endoparasite, liver fluke. You have tapeworm, you have roundworm, all the examples which stays inside our body. It have complex life cycle, and also they will be having extreme specialization to survive in our body. Now, brood parasitism is there. What is happening in brood parasitism, my dear children? Where one particular organism is going to, for example, I am a cuckoo. Cuckoo is also known as quail, okay, and you are crow, okay, you are crow. Now, basically you are going to lay eggs in the nest, but me being really bad, I am also going to lay my egg over there. What will happen? What will happen now? Basically, you do not know, and my egg entirely looks like yours. So basically what will happen? The crow which is there, it is not going to be able to find out that it's not mine, and it provides nutrition, just like how it is providing nourishment, not nutrition, nourishment, how it's providing warmth and all to all the other eggs, it does so. So don't you think, I am utilizing the other organism's energy? Yes. So am I not getting benefit out of it? Yes. Is the organism losing its energy? Yes. So it is a negative effect for them, a positive effect for me. So this is known as brood parasitism. So cuckoo lays eggs in a crow's nest. Adaptation, cuckoo's eggs resemble crow's eggs to avoid what? Detection, my dear children. Cuckoo's eggs, please remember, always remember, okay? The parasite which is there, it is having the adaptation. It is having the adaptation to resemble what? Crow's egg. Not the crow is not getting adapted to look like quail's egg. Okay, it is the cuckoo that is getting adapted. So parasitic adaptation is happening over there. Work. So this is all about parasitism. So please, when I go ahead, do not forget the older ones. You can just go back and just read it once more. You will understand things better. Okay. Now what do we have? We have commensalism. We have commensalism, which is very much interesting. So one is getting benefit, the other one is neither getting harmed nor getting benefited. So commensalism is an interaction between two species in which one species benefits while the other is neither harmed nor it is benefited. Example, orchid on mango tree. So this is orchid on the mango tree, my dear children. So because orchid wants enough sunlight, which is why it goes and grows up there. Get it? It's not going to harm the plant or anything. It has its own leaf and everything. It does photosynthesis for itself. There is no harm. So orchid gains support, mango tree is unaffected. Okay. What about barnacles on the whales? So if you might have seen, barnacles are there on the whales. So barnacles basically, when they stay on the whales, they are helping the whales when they move around there. The barnacles are also getting transported, and while doing this, they also they can easily catch their food as well. But are the whales getting affected in any ways? No. They are kind of okay, cool. Whatever happens, happens. We have to be like that. Okay. Now we have cattle egret and grazing cattle. So this is a cattle egret, which is a bird, my dear children. Yes, and now you have grazing cattle. So suppose I am the cow. When I move around, what will happen? On the grass, the insects which are there, they will also fly up. And when the insects fly up, the cattle will be like, okay, I am going to eat it. It eats everything. So egret finds food easily as a cattle disturbs the insect when they move around. And cattle is basically unaffected. There is no effect. Now there is clownfish and sea anemone. So sea anemone has tentacles like this, my dear children. It has tentacles like this, and in between you see Finding Nemo wala Nemo. So over here you have the clownfish. Okay, and what is happening exactly? So clownfish is getting protection because these guys have the tentacles, so no one will come and harm it. Okay, anemone, if you talk about that, does it have any apparent benefit? So actually I taught this also initially. Okay, so what should I say? In actual sense, they are getting benefit. Some benefit is there. There is cleaning happening over there, and there are a lot of other things as well. But it is not considered to be mutualism. Why? If both the organisms are getting benefit, they should be considered mutualism. Why? Because actually sea anemone has a major role to do. That is protection. it has a bigger duty to do, which is why it is just counted as commensalism. Okay, so these 4 things are examples of commensalism. I think now the pictures you can remember it better, which is why you might remember the whole thing. I could not gather the picture for, I actually forgot somehow. Okay, I'm really sorry for that. But yes, I hope I said some story or something like that in which way you can remember it. Yeah. Okay, so that is done. Commensalism is also done. Now the last thing that we have is mutualism, my dear children. In mutualism, what is happening? It's a type of interaction where both the species benefit, my dear children. Both of them are going to benefit. For example, you have lichens, you have mycorrhiza. Okay, what do you mean by lichens? Lichens is a symbiotic association between the fungus and the algae. The fungus and the algae, that is cyanobacteria. Now, what will the fungus do? Fungus will be providing certain nutrients because it can seep down and things like that. It can take in the nutrients really easily. What about algae? Algae as in cyanobacteria, they have the ability to do photosynthesis. So, they will provide what? Organic matter. So, fungus provides protection. Okay, over here, fungus provides protection while the algae produces food, and apart from fungus providing protection, they also provide nutrients. Okay, they also provide nutrients. Talking about mycorrhiza, here association is between fungi and plant roots, where the fungi help absorb nutrients and the plant provides carbohydrate. Plant is also able to do what, say, photosynthesis, right? So it will do the photosynthesis, it will provide the food. What does the fungi do? Fungi seeps into the soil and brings in phosphorus. It brings in phosphorus. Exact nutrient if you are asked about, please answer phosphorus. It is there in the chapter Microbes and Human Welfare. Okay. So both of them are getting benefited, all are happy? Yes. Now plant-animal relationship, pollination and seed dispersal. So plant provide nectar, pollen and fruit to the organism, and the animal which are coming for pollination, my dear children, they are going to transfer the pollen grains. So aren't both of them benefited? Yes. So this is an example, plant pollination. Okay. Now co-evolution, flowers and pollinators evolve together to maintain their interaction, and in this way it has been seen that the flowers which are there and the pollinators which are there, they are going to benefit each other with the help of this particular interaction. Cool, works. Will you remember this? So lichen, mycorrhiza and this. Now there are special cases of mutualism as well. So fig and wasp relationship. So this is the fig tree. Inside the fig tree there are wasps who lay the eggs. So fig trees are pollinated by specific species of wasp, no one else. Now female wasps lay their eggs inside the fig fruit, and the larvae feed on the developing seeds. So over here, the wasp which is there, it is getting a safe space to lay their eggs, and also nourishment is provided. And what does the wasp help the plant with? It helps with pollination while searching for egg laying sites. So this is a very specialized relationship which is there, and it is a very important thing that you should know. Fig wasp relationship. Now there is something else, that is orchid and bee. Okay, orchid and bee, and this is an example of sexual deceit. Deceit as in, what do you mean by deceit? In Hindi it's dhoka. Okay, deceit as in I am cheating. Okay, so what is happening over here is that orchids evolve special floral patterns to attract the right pollinators like bees and bumblebees. So that picture is not given over here, this is of the fig only. Okay, so basically orchid which is there, it looks like the female bee. Now the male bee will come, okay, female bee is over here, and it will come and pseudocopulate. It will try to copulate with it, and this is not pseudocopulation because the female is not, the female is just the, the plant, that is Ophrys, which is a Mediterranean orchid, my dear children. So Mediterranean orchid, which is Ophrys, my dear children, please, not Ophrys, Ophrys, okay, please remember this name. Okay, so they are orchids which look just like the female bee which is there. Now what will happen? They will come and try to pseudocopulate, but while it does so, what happens is that it dusts down all the pollen grains on its body. In that way, pollination is definitely going to happen. Now, co-evolution is that if the female bee appearance changes, the orchid must evolve to, or pollination success rate will be decreasing. That is for sure. So co-evolution is really important over here. Got it? Please remember the name Ophrys. Okay, it is showing sexual deceit, and in a sense, okay, at the end, if at all, okay, the orchid anyway is going to provide something, even though it's showing pseudocopulation. Okay, it is not the female bee, but still some benefit will be given in the form of nectar or fruit, or sorry, not fruit, basically pollen grains or anything. Okay, so it is acting like an example of mutualism itself. Okay, so whatever I was searching for, it is sorted. Okay, so that's all, my dear children. So these are the relations that you should be knowing, the interactions that you should be knowing. These are very, very important for your exam. And with this, we complete the whole chapter. So give you a big tap on your back. You did it. Okay, so wishing you all the best, and also if you have any doubts, please ask me in the comment section. And if you found this video helpful, then also do let me know. If you have any doubts, do let me know. Whatever you want to say, you can say. Yeah, and wishing you all the best. Take care of yourself. Do not be worried about anything. We are here for you. Not forget to like, share and subscribe. Bye bye. Take care.